It's so good to be back. This is another episode of the series, The 100, that we're rounding off our 100 episodes of the Polish Lens podcast with, and I'm excited again. Everybody knows I use the word excited every time I have a guest because then I'm not the only one who is talking from the start to the end. But this is someone that I'm really have with me here. For a number of reasons. I'm sure as we go on, you'll probably be able to pick it up in our conversation. But this is someone that I would say, how would I describe how we were years ago when we first got to know each other? I'm trying to look for what you used to describe, that time of our lives when you're still trying to understand your left from your right, and you think you actually know your left and your right. That's exactly the time when I got to meet him for the first time, and his family and his siblings, and they were so amazing to a ministry that we're part of. But I'm not here to talk about our connection, but this is just someone I'm happy to have here with me today. So Kunmi, thank you for joining us on the 100. Thank you for joining us today.
You're most welcome. Thank you for having me.
Amazing. Okay. So what I do when I have guests like you come on some of our sessions is to ask them to just share something about themselves, and especially things that the regular people don't know, things that people have to squeeze you to get information that they don't need to be so close to you. Some things that maybe people like your wife know about or your siblings know about that the regular person doesn't know, but would like to meet you. What are the things that you willingly and openly share about yourself, and then what are those things that you don't say so often, but it's not a bad one for you to talk about?
Okay. Right, my name is Kunmi Ariyo. I'm an event producer, speaker, content creator around all things events. Married, an amazing woman, have 2 beautiful kids. I run an event agency called Mirus Events that has been around for 8 years, and we basically do experiential marketing events for corporates. And even in the corporate space, we like to focus on tech. We like to do events for tech companies because I believe that data is the new oil. What else?
Where did you school? What did you study? Where did you grow up? What countries have you traveled?
So that question about where did I school and where did I study? I honestly, and this is no joke, I cannot remember anything that I learned in school. No jokes. I can't remember anything at all I was taught in university. Nothing at all. So I think I went to school to make connections, but not to study. But I mean, yeah, I graduated. I'll put it that way. I like to travel. I like to watch movies. I'm a gamer. Will I call myself a foodie? Yes, I'm a foodie.
Okay. So what would be your favorite meals then if you are a foodie?
I like pounded yam. I like plantain. And the one thing that, if you gave me, I cannot say no. Crepes. I totally love crepes. I can never say no to crepes. I'm a hopeless romantic. My wife can tell you that. What else? I have a perfume addiction. I don't know how to see perfumes without buying them. I'm a collector. Let's just put it like that. I think I'm an extroverted introvert. I like to party, but I don't like to talk to a lot of people. Yeah. So that's cool in a nutshell.
Okay. It's good to meet. It's good to meet you, and it's nice to hear the vulnerability in your saying that you are a hopeless romantic as well. Because some guys might not be that open to say that, or maybe they feel they are, but in their mind you're like, if I say I'm one, my wife will say, how exactly are you one? But for you to say with confidence, it's obvious that Mrs. Ariyo can confirm that for us if we ever have her here. We're actually looking forward to having her someday. Someday we'll be glad to have her and meet her. We've seen a lot of what you guys are doing together. You know, you're supporting her in the space and know that she's doing. That's just incredible. Thank you. So just as we close on meeting you, there's this or that I want to play a bit with you. Just 5 questions, all right, very quick. And because you've said movies, I'm just going to ask one on movies as well. All right, very simple. Okay. So which would you rather? Action or sci-fi?
Action.
What are your top action movies?
Fast and Furious.
I knew. I was expecting that. I was expecting that to be on the
list. Definitely. The Bond series. What's that one that Nicolas Cage did with there was this Nicolas Cage one about the prison. I really like that one.
On Air?
Was it The Rock or no, it wasn't On Air.
Con Air. Con Air is long.
With Sean Connery. It was the one with Sean Connery, not Con Air. It was the one he did with Sean Connery.
Face Off.
I can't remember the name, but it wasn't Face Off. That was John Travolta.
Yeah. I'm sure some people will be hearing some of these movies and be like, "Who are these old school guys? What movies are they mentioning there?" Okay.
And then I love anything with Jason Statham.
Okay. All right. Cool. All right. Good. Thank you for sharing that. Don't worry. I'll start tagging you now. Anytime I see anything that you do, Kunmi, you like this. I'll start tagging you now that I knew. Okay. So football or basketball?
Football. I mean, only when Nigeria is playing.
Okay. Only when Nigeria is playing. Do you have a favorite club?
I don't watch football. That's what I'm saying. Only when Nigeria is playing.
Your wife is a lucky woman. At least she does not have to worry about buying jerseys and then excusing you whenever you have your club
doesn't
playing.
Have to worry about that.
Okay. All right. Let's move a bit to dessert. Cake or ice cream?
Cake.
Okay, cake. All right. This one starts to get a little bit tricky. Not too tricky. You might have thought about it before. I don't know. So if you were going to have an opportunity to pick between knowing the day you're going to die or knowing how you're going to die, what would you prefer?
Knowing how I'm going to die.
What makes that your answer?
I just want to know that it's painless. I mean, regardless, whenever it is, let it just be painless. That's all I care about. It's not painless, let it be quick.
Yeah. Yes. I think so. I know that the times I've thought about death as well, it's always been like, just no pain. Let's just sleep it off and get to the other side. Okay, yep. All right. So if you had the opportunity also of choosing between being a president for a day or an ambassador for 2 days, what would you prefer?
President. President. I'll do and undo that day. That one day. Yeah.
What would be the first thing? Okay.
Fire everybody. Hey. Fire all of them. Fire. And just that one day. Hi. They can't come back the next day. Fire everybody. Hey.
Okay. All right, cool. Because I was just going to ask you now that what would be the first thing you would do, because you said you're going to do and undo. So I wanted to find out what would be the first thing you would do.
First, fire all the people that are incompetent, and there are lots of them.
Yeah, I believe we're all looking out for some things and all that to do with Nigeria. So it's good to know that many of us still have that top of our mind. All right. Yeah. So for you growing up, what were the evolving thoughts or dreams you had about what you wanted to do or become when you eventually become an adult? Because I know that many of us have had those times in our lives when we're growing up, when we will start by saying, no, I want to be this because we saw someone who was doing that thing and it kind of inspired us. And then we changed to this. What was the journey like for you? What was your first consideration? What did it change to? What made it change? What was it like for you, journeying to deciding what you wanted to do before you decided on what you were going to study in the university?
So the first thing I ever wanted to do was be an aeronautical engineer. I don't know where that came from, but I mean, that was the first thing I remember when I was really young and I was like, this is what I want to do. I mean, I don't know, I think it just sounded really cool because you had to do with planes. I don't know, but I mean, that was the first thing I remember. And my dad was an engineer. It was I think it was a mechanical engineer or something like that. But I remember saying I wanted to be an aeronautical engineer. And then that progressed to wanting to be an economics. I remember saying that I wanted to go to London School of Economics. I really wanted to do that. Then it progressed to me wanting to be a business psychologist.
Wow.
And I thought that was where I was going to pitch my tent, really.
Wow.
And then I ended up here, an event producer.
Wow, that's interesting. So what you studied in school, was that the economics part that you eventually did in school?
Yes, I did. Yes, I studied economics in school.
Okay. So tell us about this journey to events, because it's quite interesting actually also. So I've seen a bit of the work you do online, and your description earlier on kind of nailed it, saying you're into more of the experiential part of event management, because exactly that's what I see with your work. So it's good to know that your work was already speaking for itself before you actually described that. I like that when people's work can do that, right? But what led you there? What was the journey like for you at the start? Because I know that for me, I don't know about any other person, but in my mind, I know that maybe because most of the people I know who were into party planning and event management, well, for a long time, while we were in Lagos, were mostly females, right? So every time I think of event management, I'm like, is the ladies that are doing that, right? So what was it like for you considering that? Was it that you saw someone do it, or you're like, let me give this a shot? But I know that, I mean, if I think back to how you were when we were younger, you did like putting organization, you like organization. So I'm not surprised you're in this space. But what helped you discover that this is it, Kunmi, go for it? What helped you?
So I got a job at an event company. I was in HR and admin at the event company. So I was basically meant to be doing desk work. But then I went for one event, and I liked it. And I went for another one and I liked it. So after a while, I moved from human resources to operations. And then I eventually became the operations manager. I mean, I enjoyed the thrill of seeing the event come together. And I said, you know what, like this is it. So I worked there for about 3 years and then I left and I started Mirus events.
Mm-hmm. Wow. And so what was it like leaving? Because it's one thing to be in a space where things are already established. There's a template, there are resources, there are people to defer to. When things go not the way you want it, you can easily say, we're a team, we all caused the issue, right? You can lean on those things to a place where you're the one in charge. What helped you? What helped you come into that decision to say, okay, I'm going to do this? And what helped you?
No, and so I know that it's a funny story. I remember the day my daughter was born, and I looked at her picture and I said, I can't raise this girl on this salary. And then 2 days after that, I was in church and I kind of got a word and I said, you know what, I'm just going to drop my resignation that evening. And I did that. And when I resigned, I didn't think I was going to start a company. I thought I was just going to like freelance and all of that. You know, I kept telling people, hey, I've resigned, or if you need a planner. But I mean, like a month after that, I woke up one night and I started to search for a business name. I found Mirus Events and I registered it immediately. And that's how it started.
Wow. Wow. And wow, okay. So no, but it's good to know that I know that a lot of people have different reasons for leaving the corporate space. For me, it was more like getting to a point where I wanted to do more and I couldn't juggle. And I was like, I need to give something to focus on this and to run with this, right? But what were the voices like for you at that time?
Flexibility was one of the biggest voices in my head. I wanted my own time. So I remember there was one time I was at home, my brother, and he came back from work and it was a Wednesday and he said, well, my friend is getting married on a Thursday, but I can't go because I have to get to work. And I really hated the sound of that. I was like, what rubbish. I don't want this kind of life. I want to be the master of my time, you know. I was like, I can't like, and I wasn't done with school then, but I was like, man, I don't want to ever be in a space where I have to do it 9 to 5 and I can't. I said, you know what?
Mhm.
Eventually, I know that this is not going to work.
Yeah,
You know, so I
yeah.
mean that's flexibility. Now it's not like the honest truth is like it's not like if a friend is getting married now, I carry my head and go because I'm busy with work. But I mean, it's my choice. Do you understand? It's my choice. It's not like
Yeah.
it's somebody else's choice. It's my choice. But I wanted to have that ability to choose my time.
Mm, mm, mm. It's interesting that you say that. And I like the fact that you also mentioned, that that happened for you while you were still even in school, because it obviously seeded something there. There are some things that shape our decision making at some point in our lives, and we don't really know how it will eventually affect the future part. Because you just get to a point and it's easier for you to make a decision when you come ahead of that, timeline to say, no, this is what I want, but then it takes a lot of dot connecting, looking back into the past to say, oh yeah, I remember the events that made me decide that this was never going to happen to me. Reminds me of one of my mentors who on his journey to wealth creation had an incident where someone kind of defrauded him in the business over taxes and things like that. And then his decision at that time was he was going to make as much money that even if anyone was going to rob him, it wasn't going to have an effect on what he was going to have. And then it kept me in that space of I just need to have that kind of wealth where if you are stealing from me, I'm not feeling I'm not feeling it. So I'm not looking out for the little pennies people are going to take from me and things like that. So being able to pinpoint that, I know that some people might be listening into your episode today and be thinking, oh yeah, I know that there was a time in my life where having my time mattered to me because I missed out on a special event, or I saw someone who missed out on a special opportunity because they couldn't be there. And, asking themselves again, but what have I been doing, even though I would have preferred that? Because people do have that preference, but they've not just done anything about it now or yet. Yeah. And knowing that that helped you to make the decision, it's a good one. So when you started, what was your greatest concern when you started? Because I don't think it must have been that smooth, right? Because it's like that with doing your own
No,
thing.
it
What was
wasn't. It wasn't. So I remember the first year call. I'm like, oh, I referred you to somebody. So I do an event for them. I make like twice my monthly salary. I'm like, yay. I'm like, this is the life, you know? The next month, I get another call. I'm consulting, not even planning. I'm just consulting with someone on an event and I get paid. I'm like, whoa, wow, wow, this is it. The third month, nothing. Fourth month, nothing. Fifth month, nothing. The 6th month, I get something. 7th month, nothing. Eighth
wow,
month, nothing. Ninth month,
wow,
like I'm sitting, I'm waking up every day, and I'm like, okay, so what's going to happen? You know? Yeah. And then the next day, okay, what are we doing? You
yeah,
know? And then the 10th month, I get a call. And then, I mean, things start to pick up, you know, I start to do some events. But then I start to do some events for this company that they say, look, we don't pay you up front, so you get your payment in 45 days. And I'm thinking from where do I have the money to? And then for this
Yeah.
particular guy, I do like 6 events in the space of 3 months. No payments.
Wow.
I'm borrowing money from my mom, from my sister, from everybody that I can borrow money from. I'm owing people left, right, and center. I remember doing an event one time and went in to set up, and they're like, man, you guys can't come in, you haven't paid. You
Wow.
know, I sat in the car, I cried.
Wow.
You know, it was a Sunday, and I called my mom, and she was like, look, and my mom doesn't do online banking. So she was like, you know what, tomorrow morning I'll go to the bank, get all the money I have, I'll send it to you in the morning. It was crazy,
Wow.
you know? And I know at the end of that 1 year, I was owing my sister like 3 point something million because I just kept borrowing from her, you know. But I mean, by the next year, like the January of the next year, all the money those guys were owing me just came in. I mean, it came in at once. It was
Wow.
a bulk payment.
Wow.
It was a bulk payment of money that I'd never seen in my life. So I remember getting the alert. As I just saw the alert, I didn't see anything. I just went out of the house, drove out, got my wife an iPhone, just went back to the house, and I gave it to my daughter to give her. As she saw the phone, she said, she just started screaming. She said, you've been paid. You've been paid. It was so crazy.
That is so
It was
cool.
so crazy.
Wow.
It was ridiculous. You
Wow.
know, from there, things started to just go up and up. It just started to go up, you know.
That is so good. That is so good. So I'll be whenever I want to tease you now, I will just say, okay, Akumi, have you gotten any iPhone alerts? Because now we know that whenever an iPhone drops, that's a pointer to the fact that money has come in.
A big alert.
iPhone alerts.
You know?
That is good. That is good. So
Yeah.
I know that, wow, but it's interesting hearing that because I know that for a lot of people who want to start things, I mean, staying on through all those no months of activity, you're putting stuff out. Because I'm in this space as well. So I know what it is like to be waiting for opportunities to come through. You're pushing out your visibility and whatever you need to do, depending on the space. And yet you're not getting as much traction. But what helped you in the no activity months? I should ask that. What helped you when things weren't just looking the way you wanted? What helped you? What do you think helped you stay focused or still stay with it? Because you could easily have gone back to corporate. I mean, you had worked before. You could easily have gone back. What helped you to still stay on?
I think I just burned the bridges in my mind that there was no going back. I think that's what it was for me. It never even crossed my mind to say that I wanted to get a job or ask anyone for a job. I think I went to that bridge in my head. I was like, look, this thing either succeeds or it succeeds. It has to succeed, you know. So in those months, I just all I'd be doing is putting together proposals, trying to get inspiration online. So I mean, when the work came, I had a lot of things that I already had in my head or things written down somewhere that I could just, plan with, that kind of thing. So that's basically what I just kept doing.
That's so good. That's so good. That's so good. That is so good. That is so good. Just deciding that one. This has just got to work. This has got to work because it also helps you to
work. I was like, this has to work.
Yeah.
It just
Yeah.
has to.
That's incredible. That's incredible. I like that. And I also like the nugget you just dropped now on what you were doing while you waited. Because people now start asking, okay, so if you're telling me to wait when things are not working, what am I supposed to be doing while I'm waiting? And then you mentioned
Preparing yourself for the big break. That's what you're doing. You're preparing yourself. So if you are waiting and just waiting, when the opportunity comes, what are you doing? So you need to prepare yourself. That is the season to prepare. You just might not have that season again. Like right now, I don't even have time to do anything. I'm just too busy. So it's,
Yeah, true. I like that because the preparation part you said you were involved in was just having proposals ready, putting ideas together as they were coming. You were just shaping them as much as you can, so that when the opportunity comes, you could lock them in. The other thing you were doing was staying inspired, because a lot of people miss out on that. you were listening to inspirational stuff. I mean, and I think that's why, some people will say, oh, how much of motivational stuff do we need? But you do need the motivational stuff when things are not going the way you want it, because that's what's going to keep you holding on, keep you holding on. So for those that might be waiting, waiting for another break and another break till things become a norm, or things take shape the way you want, you need to keep that inspiration flowing. I always tell people that in order for you to thrive in any season, you need to have a source of inspiration, whether things are even going the way you want it or not. You need to have that inspiration tank stocked up, because there will be times when you will just be, the universe will shake you and be like, are you ready for the next big thing?
Yep, the universe will shake you.
Yeah, will shake you, asking you if you're really ready for the next big thing, because anytime you're going to come into something new, you just need to do a bit of a push to get to the next level. So it's really good to hear that. Okay, so in the event space, let's come back to your work event. In the event space, right? I know you said at the beginning the story around money, not being paid. So that's one gist. We'll keep that gist. We still want to hear more gist. So we want to hear from you. I know what client confidentiality is about, so you don't need to mention names. But what would you say has been the most memorable work you've done? That you're like, I can never forget this event that I planned. Maybe because it was the toughest one for you, or the one that you learned the biggest lesson, right? Or the one that you're like, oh my God, this is the best I've done so far. What was the most memorable work you've done up till now for you? Or what has been the most memorable one up till now for you?
I'll tell you, it was an event that I did, I think it was like 2018. So before then, I'd been doing a particular event for a particular client where they always had to bring in an expatriate company to run the event, while I was brought in as like the local event planner, because in their minds, they felt we couldn't handle it, so they always brought in a company from South Africa to handle the events and all of that. Yeah. So that happened 2 years in a row. And then there was a particular event from the same company, but from someone else in the company. And it was big. It was really big. They were having some of the global bosses coming for that event. And he had told everyone in the office that, look, Kunmi is going to handle the event. And a lot of people had said, oh, are you sure? Can he handle it? This, that, And he said, you know what? It's my event and I'm going to let him do it. And we did it.
Wow.
And it was good.
Wow.
It was so good. Up until now, it's probably one of the best events they have ever done in that company.
Wow.
As a result of that, the next year when they wanted to do that other event, they had to ask themselves, do we need to bring in the expatriate company? And they said no. So we handled it from start to finish. And since then, they have not brought in the expatriate company again.
Wow, that is so good. That is so good. That is so good. Wow, that is incredible. That is incredible. It just reinforces the fact that on the way to the big thing, you just need to keep showing up excellently, because you just never know. You just never know. That is so good. That is so good. That the person who actually gave you the opportunity must have seen something that made them feel like, okay, I believe Kunmi would be able to stretch on this thing. Will be able. But did you think you had the capacity when you had the opportunity? Well, how did you feel when you got that initial opportunity?
I was initially overwhelmed, but I'm very, very big on collaboration. So I said, you know what, I'm not sure I can do this alone. So I brought in some of my event buddies to work with me on the event. I'm a very, very big advocate on collaboration. It's better to be a small part of a big thing than a big part of a small thing. So I brought in my guys, and in my opinion, when you collaborate, at the end of the day, it's still your name they're going to call, and which is exactly what it is. So I brought in different people to collaborate with me, and it was like the A team.
Wow, that is so good. That is so good. Wow. Okay, so Let me just drop that nugget. Let me shake that nugget that you just dropped now, because I know a lot of people, listening to this thing, sometimes people are so carried away with, oh, I know Kunmi, I'm just listening to Kunmi. And then it could be someone who has actually heard you before, or who probably even knows you and they're not even understand what you're saying. Because in the content creating or craft workmanship space, the reason why many of us are not quick to take opportunities is because we feel we are not ready. And then when we're thinking we're not ready, we're thinking like that because we feel like we're not competent enough. And so what's coming to the minds of people is, I need to go and build my capital. I need to build my skill. I need to go for a program. I need to go for a course. Or if I cannot do it at all, then let me hand it over completely to someone else to do. Those are the options people are thinking about. How do I get ready, or how do I just hand it over to someone else? But this word, I know a lot of people have heard the word collaboration, and they're always talking about collaboration, but many people are not thinking about collaboration with respect to being open and maximizing an opportunity. And it's so interesting to think that this is something you did way back. This is not 2020, this is 2018 you're talking about. So this is 4 years into the word becoming a thing online, right? With that. And for anyone who is listening in right now, you probably want to be thinking about that. And in fact, my encouragement will be, there's something I always do when we do our Science of Getting Richer mastermind group. And when we talk about having your dream team. And one of the things we always tell the participants is, you don't need to wait to need a legal person to know a legal person. You don't need to wait to know a tax person to need, you should start building your dream team now, because when the tax things happen, you know who to call. When this person happens, you know who to call, because you've been building that connection and you've had that dream there. So it's good to know that, because you wouldn't have felt comfortable calling people in that you couldn't trust on such an opportunity. That means that you would have had some form of relationship, something, even if something reasonable enough, decent enough for you to say, I think these are the people I can bring in to be able to take up this is good. This is good. Thank you so much for sharing that. All right. So just before we let you go, because I know I'm looking at the time, I'm looking at the fact that you probably have some meetings to jump into, or at least get a night's rest before another set of meetings tomorrow. So I'm just going to give you a little bit more to share with us today, just before you go off. And the first one will be this. If you were given the opportunity to start all over again, what would you do differently?
What would I do differently? I'd sell myself more. That's what I'll do. I'd sell myself more. I think I used to always try to play it small, play it humble, be modest. I'll make a lot of noise from the early days, a whole lot of noise. And that's because I know that the noise is followed with substance, but I'll make a lot of noise. I do that.
Wow.
Because I see a lot of people, doing things that I should be doing, and they're not doing it half as good as I could be doing it. And I'm asking myself, how did they get this opportunity? They're making noise.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd make a lot of noise, lots of noise.
Awesome.
I really hate it when I meet people that say they don't know my company. Yeah,
that's so good. Make some noise. You're the second person saying that in the last few weeks. Somebody else said the same thing. We were chatting and she said she's learning now. You need to make some noise. You need to make some noise. Yep, and now you're saying the same thing now. And yes, that's so good. That's so good. All right, good. And then what would you be telling that person who wants to come into your kind of work today? Who is saying, oh, you know what, I want to go down this track. What are the top 3 things they need to probably look out for to do well in the space that you operate in now?
The first question is, why do you want to do it? You need to really ask yourself, is it for the money or is it a passion? It has to be a passion, because event planning is the 6th most stressful job in the world. So the question is, why are you doing it? And then who are you learning from? And what standards are you benchmarking your business against? Are you a local champion in Lagos or local champion in Nigeria? What are you looking at? What are the things so for me, I don't think we've done a lot, because I see so many events that I'm like, we haven't done anything this close. So there's still a whole lot for us to do, so my standards I'm not basing myself on any Nigerian or African standards. It's global standards. I want people to see my events and say, what country is this? Where was this done? I don't want to do something and they say, oh, that's Lagos or that's Ibadan. No, I want them to see it and say, where? What part of the world is this?
Yeah. I like that. That's so good. And just having those questions. And I like the tips that you gave, because you gave them in a question way. And with the work that I do, I understand the power of questions, because that's mostly how we get to support people to hit their goals, really, when we take them through those introspective journeys. Or, okay, what are you thinking about? Why do you want this? Is this really a passion for you? But the third one for me was really a good one. Knowing that when you start off, you're already saying, how far do you want to go with this thing? So if you want to go and be benchmarked against, international standards, global standards, then you start off differently. And the things you're allowing for yourself, will be different and all of that. So it's so good to hear that, and to challenge that person who's considering coming into your kind of space with that, to say, are you passionate? Are you learning from the right sources? Are you positioning properly? That is so good. Okay. So what should we be looking out from you? Because I know that you're doing this, and I don't want to believe that it's only businesses that can get benefits from working with you, because from what I'm hearing now, it looks like you have only tech companies on your agenda that you're targeting. That's the way it sounded.
No. And it's not like that. It's not like that. No, it's not. I mean, if it's corporate, we'll do it really and truly. And it's anything corporate where game. It's not just tech companies. But I mean, I want to do a lot more. I want to, and there's a lot more I want to do outside of event management. I mean, I want Mirus to be like a one-stop center. So it's like a group with all things events. And I'm really not looking at opening different arms of Mirus, like starting from scratch. It's something that's been on my mind for years, and it's mergers and acquisitions, buying up different companies, buying up decor companies, production companies, like tech rental companies, the whole works. It's heavy on my mind, and it's not buying them just within Nigeria, but in different countries. Kenya, Rwanda, South Africa. I'll start from there.
Yeah. Awesome.
And then the Mirus place is heavy on my mind. It's a one-stop event center. Yeah.
Fantastic offering there. Fantastic there. Just in case anyone who is listening in is thinking, oh, well, I would love to definitely do some work with Mr. Kunmi. They can start stalking you right now, so that they can know that, okay, we're located in Rwanda. You're the person we want to do this work with, So I like the fact that you seeded that now out, and I'm excited for you already. I like it when, one has seen what one is capable of doing on a level, and then you're already saying, okay, I believe that we can start to think about this at this point. It also shows the kind of journey creators are on in their space. You learn something, you add value, and then you serve, and then you're like, okay, we can do much more, and then you learn again on the new level, and then you're like, you can do much more, and all of that. Thank you so much for taking time from your busy. I know how December can be. So I must be one very lucky person to have grabbed you for the last 40 minutes or so, sharing your thoughts. But as I release you tonight to Mrs. Ariyo and your team and the kids as well, and your clients, I just want you to leave us with, final words for the night and for the year as well. Because I know that when people are coming into a new year, which we'll be doing in a few weeks, people are thinking about what they want to do, what they want to adjust, what they want to modify in their spaces. And what final words could you leave us with today, with some of the things you might have learned recently yourself?
You can't build from chaos. You can only build from a place of rest and peace. So regardless of whatever it is that is happening around you, always maintain peace and stillness. That's the only way you can create.
Amazing. That's fantastic. Even I needed to hear that. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing. It's so much joy that we've had you here with us. You've dropped incredible nuggets. And I think that the reason why you could share the ideas and the lessons and the learnings is because you probably would have taken some pause points different times to say, oh, this is what I've learned. This is what this really is. This is what I'm experiencing. Because articulating some of the things that you've shared with us definitely comes with thinking about it. You would have had time sometimes to have thought about it. But this particular last point, fantastic. I loved it. You nailed it very well. Great way to end tonight's session with you. So on behalf of everyone, we want to say congratulations to the many milestones you've reached in 100 count and more in your work. And we want to say wish you the very best. And we'll be one of the first, of course, to give you a congratulations when the Mirus space is eventually launched. And we know it's not going to be far from now. Definitely not far from now. Not with the way you're doing your work. And we wish you the very best. And we want to say thank you again for, just leaving these footprints for many to follow. God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. Thank you. God bless you. Enjoy.
Alrighty. Bye.
Bye.